So now that we've been growing our seedlings for about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on what you planted and when you planted them, when do we pot them up? How big do they have to be? What is the procedure? That's kind of the question that's floating around today, and that's what we'll be going over. My name is Karen. I'm the Green Thumb Gourmet. Welcome, and if you have been here before and you're coming back, welcome back. I'm glad to see you. And we are going to be going over some things you can do to help boost your seedlings growth after you transplant them today. So let's dive in. So the question is, how big do your seedlings have to be before you pot them up? Well, I usually try to go by the uniform size of about 3 to 4 inches high, sometimes 2 inches high. And you could really, depending on what it is, the lettuces, I usually wait till they're a little bigger than this, and I would take them from the pot and put them into your garden bed. This size here, it's a pretty high, right here, about 3 inches, 4 inches high, about that size. I've planted these direct sow, which I tend to do with lettuce because it's easy to kind of broadcast the seeds over the top and just sprinkle soil on top and let it grow. My kale here, same thing. I usually direct sow that. That's the Russian kale, red Russian, and this is the curly green kale, which I like it much better. It seems to be much hardier. It can take the heat and the cold. So I kind of did an experiment this year. The Russian kale is having hard time adjusting to the heat and the large fluctuations in our temperature between having a lot of sun all too many days in a row and then having too many days of rain. The curly kale, the blue curly kale, seems to be a little more resilient and do much better. So I think I might stick with that. There's a little flavor difference, but probably not worth the aggravation. I wanted to show you the bags of different fertilizers that I use. No particular brand, but Job's usually does well and has a decent price. So I found these on sale and I stocked up for the season. And this is the all-purpose balanced granular organic fertilizer. This is the bone meal and then the vegetable and tomato. And I use these at different stages. Right now, since the seedlings need a little extra nutrition, I normally use the liquid fish emulsion fertilizer. And I put probably about 3 tablespoons in a gallon and mix it up with water. I kind of keep it weak at this stage when they're just tiny seedlings, and that strengthens them without burning them because they can be burned really easily when they're tiny. And then further along with the tomato and veg type, I will use this liquid fertilizer. And at what stage to use those, we can go over that, but for now this video is mostly about the seedlings, so we're going to stick with that information. And these are the seedlings at different stages. This is the ones that I direct sowed into a bigger pot. of cabbage here, and you'll see they're different stages because I succession plant these so that I don't have 20 cabbages ready all at the same time. I do love cabbage, but not quite that much. I do can and preserve some of it too, and use it for coleslaw and different things and chow chow that I make. But I do like to have it ready at different intervals. And these are two different kinds. This is the Copenhagen early. So I planted these. That's what these are as well. And then these are just the regular green cabbage that you would find in a seed store. They're struggling right now because I did transplant them for the video to show you, and we've had so much rain and very little sun that I'm trying not to water them or do too much with them right now. Just I went ahead and put the fish emulsion in there after I transplanted them into a bigger pot, and I'm just going to try to let them acclimate to their new pot. I don't want them to have super wet feet, so I'm trying to let the soil dry out a little bit. It would help if we had some sunny days, but I'm sure they'll come along eventually, but they're kind of hanging on right now. And for your onion seedlings, I have planted these in little peat pots before, the seeds, and I've also direct sown right into the garden bed, just depending on what room I have and what's open at the time. But you fertilize these the same way. When they're small like this, you want to do a weaker version of the fish emulsion. It's this right here, this one right here, and probably do that every 2 weeks. And the same with about this size with your lettuces and kales, those about 3-4 inches high. That way, keep it kind of weak. Don't do full strength fertilizer because you don't want to burn little young seedlings, and that's very important. And I wanted to show you, these are my turnips and rutabagas that I planted, and those are coming along nicely. At the beginning when they're growing, then I will feed them with the fish emulsion liquid at the same time, because at the very beginning when you plant any of your vegetables, the seed contains everything that your plant needs to grow and pop through the soil and come up just a little inch or so. After that, then you can start treating the soil and coming maybe every 10 days and doing a week watering with the fish emulsion to help them get a burst of nitrogen and grow and get a little stronger. But all this size, once these beets here, anything that has a root on it, those are going to need a little more of your phosphorus and potassium. So I usually mix in with the soil the all-purpose granular balanced fertilizer. I mix it in ahead of time so that when I do plant things, the soil already has nutrients. I also put worm castings in there, but you could use any kind of cow manure that's, been aged and treated properly, so it's not too strong to put. But I usually just mix the worm castings and organic granular in with the soil, and then once I plant the seeds, I let them grow for a little while, and then I start watering them with the fish emulsion, the weak version of it, every 10 days to 2 weeks. And then after they get to be about this tall, these are beets, you'll see there's a few inches tall. This is bok choy. These are probably about 4 inches tall as well. I continue to feed the bok choy, anything that's a green plant that doesn't have a bulb under the ground. Those will continue to like nitrogen, so you can continue to feed those and make the solution a little bit stronger of fish emulsion, because that's pure nitrogen for them, and they love that. Do it as part of a regular watering, but do it every 2 weeks and water normally in between. But anything that has a bulb on it, you probably want to switch over to the tomato veg formula. Those have a little less nitrogen in them, and then they have other nutrients that are a higher count, like that second and third number on your packages. For the roots to grow strong, they need other nutrients besides just nitrogen. And that's where the phosphorus and the potassium come in. And it's very important to give those plants what they need. I'm going back in here to show you the count on that. And sometimes I switch over to the liquid if I want to do it as part of a watering. If I want probably the first couple of times that you would, with your carrots, your beets, those kind of root vegetables, or anything that's going to flower or fruit, then I switch over to this once the plant is about 4 inches, maybe 3-4 inches high. And I do that every 10 days to 2 weeks. As you see, the count in the middle, the nitrogen is, the first number is smaller, and then your potassium and your phosphorus are higher. And that's better for anything that's rooting or flowering. And additionally, if you have tomatoes, peppers, those kind of things still growing in our Florida garden, we do. So those I will mix bone meal into the soil and the all-purpose fertilizer ahead of time before I plant the tomatoes and peppers out into the garden. I treat the soil with those. And then I switch over to this when they're about 4 inches high. I switch to the liquid, and you just follow the directions. You add this to a gallon of water and mix it. And then I'm going to show you how the tomatoes look once I plant them out into the garden beds. I transplanted them just like I showed you to do with the cabbage earlier. The only difference is, instead of potting them up, I came out here and put them directly into the garden bed, instead of, there you go, you see how big those are. Instead of putting them directly into another container, I went ahead and let them grow a little taller, as you see there, and I planted these right into the garden bed. And they like it out here because they get the rain and the nitrogen from the storms we get, and a little bit bigger, more space. They seem to thrive a little more. So I plant those directly out. Green beans, of course, you direct sow those. Those are getting pretty big now. And I had a video about when I planted those. Definitely what you want to do is just come out and inspect and see what's going on in your garden and treat accordingly. You'll see a little rust probably this time of year. Here in 9B, we've been getting a lot of rain. It's either feast or famine. So I'm just kind of trying to not water them too much in between. I'll let the garden beds dry out a little bit. But when you do plant your seeds, direct sow, come out and check on them and make sure they have everything they need. I think I have some caterpillars in here, possibly in this bed. As you see, little worms probably are the culprits, chewing little holes in here, if you can see that. So I'll need to treat this with BT as soon as it stops raining, and that should go ahead and suffice to take care of those. And then the carrots are doing very well. You definitely direct sow carrots. Probably now that they're about this size, I will switch over to the tomato and veg liquid fertilizer. And again, it has a little lower nitrogen and higher in the other nutrients that your plants need. And these are straight nitrogen lovers. I do have the soil in here amended with worm castings and all-purpose granular fertilizer all mixed in, so the soil is nice and healthy. And I put compost, and those are egg shells. That helps avoid caterpillars and worms and slugs. They don't like to walk over those, and it cuts them up, and so it kind of helps avoid damage from those darn things. And then, as you see over here, this is the sugar snap peas at different phases. Those are a little further along, and these I just planted about a week ago and a half half ago. They're coming up now. So I do tend to try to succession plant things. Most of these will get nitrogen in between. This is mostly my broccoli bed, and I have onions planted in the front that haven't come up yet. Those take a little longer to germinate, so don't worry if those don't come up right away. These onions are starting to come up though. You see those? And again, I have all these beds amended with compost, worm castings, and all-purpose granular, so the soil is healthy, has everything it needs, and so I will treat these accordingly when I fertilize about every 2 weeks. And these are cowpeas. I don't fertilize those too much. I just let them grow with whatever I have in the bed already. These are growing up on the sides. So it's pretty simple rules you can follow as far as seedlings go. You plant them out. Anything that's greenery, remember, needs mostly nitrogen like this. This is my radicchio. So those like a lot of nitrogen. This is broccoli rapini. I direct sowed some of these, and some that I planted and moved them out here where I have bare spots. But the green beans, they don't need too much. They're nitrogen fixers, so they attract nitrogen from the air and enough to feed themselves. So as long as you have good, healthy soil, those usually will grow very well, and that's radicchio as well. Now your broccolis, they're gonna love cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, all those types, especially at the beginning before any kind of heading happens. That's what all these are. They're gonna love their nitrogen. So when they're tiny like this, I do the weak version of the fish emulsion till they get a little bigger like these over here, and then I can make it full strength because I don't want to burn my seedlings. So that's kind of the rule of thumb when you're dealing with seedlings, and I hope that's helpful for you. It's not too confusing if you follow those basic rules and guidelines, and check your garden every day and check on your little seedlings, make sure they're doing okay. Don't overwater, and try to make sure that you feed them every 10 days to 2 weeks, and you'll have a great, successful garden this year. It started raining as we have a hurricane sideswiping our coast today. It's not going to hit, but we're getting plenty of rain and wind right now, so I had to move it indoors. So in closing, hopefully you have found this video informative and it has helped you out in some way. If you have any questions, please put them below. I love hearing from you, and I really appreciate you tuning in and spending time with me today. And hopefully you'll have a great week and go out and make yourself a great day.